pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the June 24th, 2019 meeting of the Shawnee County Board of Commissioners. My name is Bob Archer. I currently serve as chair of the commission and represent District 3 alongside Commissioner Bill Rippon, who represents District 1, and Commissioner Kevin Cook, who represents District 2. Good morning, everyone.
Morning. Morning.
First item of business, please.
First item is proclamations, presentations. Number one, presentation of AMR's 2018 final report. Nelson Castile, Emergency Management.
Morning, Commissioners. Nelson Castile, Emergency Management. I'm your ambulance compliance officer. Indeed, my privilege and pleasure to be here to report back to you on the second full year of our contract with AMR. This presentation will be made available and put up on our website. You all should have received a copy of the report as well, and there's a copy of the report here if we need to zoom in or look at anything. So in March of 2015, Director of Administrative Services Betty Greiner and myself came to the Commission and asked that you issue a directive to the Ambulance Advisory Board to formulate an RFP. The current contract at that time had been in effect since 2006. It was going to expire at the end of 2016, and we wanted to see what else we could get out there, cut back on some of the costs, but also increase on some of the services benefits that we were going to reap from that. The Ambulance Advisory Board appointed a committee to write the RFP. They wrote that from about April to December. You folks in December, after a couple of changes, approved the RFP being issued in January. On January 4th, it closed out in March, and we had two people that submitted proposals to us. The evaluation committee looked at the proposals, they scored them, and brought to you their recommendation, which in this case was American Medical Response, who we then negotiated a contract with. This contract is in effect until December 2021. However, there are automatic expansions, automatic extensions in there. Any questions so far? Okay. This, as you notice on the report, it basically asks one question. Being in college, I enjoyed one question essays. This one took about 27 pages, so there's a little bit, little bit of work there. I can verify they are in substantial compliance with all the requirements contained in there, and I'm going to show some of the benefits, recommendations, and requirements, and kind of outline those a little bit. I'm going to pause on this so our media type folks can read what it says there in the second bulletin, and hopefully we can get that out. We do not pay AMR to provide 911 ambulance services, period. We do not. We do not pay AMR to provide 911 ambulance services, period. We do pay a subsidy to AMR to recoup and recover from the monies that they are not able to collect. AMR is required by contract to respond to every call for assistance, no matter whether the customer can pay, what the customer's complaint is, they have to respond. Each of those responses take money. In the audited financials, I forgot to mention there's a chart at the very end. It's kind of large and obnoxious, so I put it at the end, but we can look at it. In 2017, AMR had $3.3 million of uncompensated care, meaning they provided service, but $3.3 million they were not able to collect. The $300,000 that we give them, which we're going to kind of dissect that number here in a second, because it's not truly a $300,000, even with what they had there, that only knocked down to $723,000 profit here in Shawnee County out of the 911 system. 2018, they had 200,000 and some more, about a $250,000 more in uncompensated care. You'll see that their net income went down. And I talked about that $300,000, but keep that number in mind just a second here. Shawnee County does pay another subsidy of $50,000 to AMR, and that is for those expenses associated with them putting their dispatchers in our 911 center. Out of that $50,000 for the years 2017 to 2019, they will be writing us a check here for $41,600, and they will be the ones purchasing that CAD-to-CAD interface for us that we will have. So they've got my math is terrible on that, but probably about $8,000 they get out of that subsidy because we're going to have more coming in. And then starting in 2020 going forward, out of that $50,000, they will pay $1,200 a month back into the fund that Betty and the sheriff, the special revenue account, through the life of the contract for rent. So out of there, they're not getting much of that subsidy. We're getting some of it back. Out of the $300,000, that number I asked you to keep an eye on there, out of that $300,000, they pay $40,000 back for my position. Pays for part of my position to monitor the contract and ensure compliance for you folks. They also are required to pay the medical director, which is the joint medical director over all 10 of the first responder agencies that we've sent that memo out to folks on. They're not allowed to pay more than $40,000, but in looking at the contract and the work that Dr. Keenan Thompson does for them, I believe that they are paying right at that $40,000. So we've taken the $300,000 minus close to $80,000, and if my math teacher would be scared, I'm up here doing arithmetic, I'm sure. I believe that's about $220,000 that they have. That's why the uncompensated care, that's why you see those numbers. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. You're not going to see the audited financials from 2006 to 2016 because the contracts are completely different. There is likely not one or two paragraphs in there that even look remotely close to the old contract because of what we went to. But we will see on the last page, I'll show that one to you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the benefits that we have reaped from this, and they are outstanding what we have reaped from AMR. In addition to what I explained on the money there, we have a joint medical director. We have the CAD-to-CAD interface that, even though it's not in place, we have seen some improved integration. We have seen some improved relationships building there between the two centers. Very good communication, interoperability, very good management of resources. John Anterman, myself, and I believe he was running just a little bit late, so he'll be here soon, and he is there. Good. John and I have been addressing, along with the fire departments, the low acuity calls that I briefed you on in meetings and briefed you on in presentations. The one that Commissioner Archer mentioned to me, I believe that he was on a ride-along and got to somebody that took an ambulance for their hurt toe. And so we are looking at those calls. AMR, in addition to the subsidy, which we said is about $220,000, we're going to take another $10,000 out of that. AMR provides $10,000 a year to the 9 first response agencies for tuition assistance. And out of that, we have seen 8 local students here, Shawnee County, Topeka, those that make up the core first responder group. We have seen 8 different students become certified EMTs because part of their tuition was paid for. Several of those, I'm happy to announce, because of our initiative with Washburn University and Washburn Tech, some of those folks have gone through Wayne Hollis's EMT course out there at Washburn Tech. So that's really helped us. To my knowledge, these 8 EMTs are still practicing, they're still working. John, I believe, was fortunate enough that when they graduated, some of them went to work for him. And so that really has worked out. We have looked at the response matrices for triages. meaning if we don't need to run an ambulance or a fire truck or a police officer or anybody with lights and sirens, we're able to stop that before somebody gets hurt. There's nothing worse than running with lights and sirens to a call that when you get there, you could have hurt somebody on the way. There's always that probability. People are attracted to lights and sirens and not in a good way, unfortunately. It works throughout the community. We've also done the same thing with staged calls. This one took a little bit for folks to get used to because you would think that somebody going to a shooting or a stabbing or something horrible, we can't send ambulance and fire folks in if the scene is not secure. It may take a while for law enforcement to get that scene secure. It may take a while for them to assess whether we can bring medical and fire in. Back to that lights and sirens, it makes no sense to run an ambulance, lights and sirens, or fire truck lights and sirens so they can sit there for 12 minutes and wait. And so we've worked that out. AMR, and you've seen the announcements, they have provided additional trainings above and beyond the two they are required to provide every month. Every month they're required to provide 2 free trainings to the first responders, which they're doing. They have also gone above and beyond and provided these special sessions with some really groovy topics there that help. It's not just the core stuff. They relate back, but they bring in some subject matter experts. And then you'll see here in a little bit, we had a little increase in the number of calls they've been handling. They have implemented an on-call program, and they have also implemented some shift change times that they have been able to manipulate there a little bit. We talked about the 2 trainings a month. The additional trainings, I forgot to mention because we like the F word, free. AMR provides those additional trainings for free, and they actually get a lot of people there because John only has barbecue or pizza or something for them, so that may help. 226 first responders in Shawnee County received free training, meaning they didn't have to go somewhere else to get it. It also meant that they are working with people that they work with every day, and they develop those relationships. This is another benefit of the contract. AMR was required, and there is a protocol adapted by AMR on the exchange of disposable medical supplies, as long as they're like. If something is not being used on a fire truck, but it's going to be used on an ambulance, they're allowed to change those out to avoid the expiration dates. And the same thing with the oxygen tanks. This is at no charge. So when those fire departments run out of their air and oxygen tanks, they bring them down to AMR. AMR gives them the new ones in exchange. AMR pays to have them filled up. It's another benefit of this contract. Standardized protocols countywide. And we've also, if you noticed in your report, and I don't remember which page it is on page 2 in the report. You get to see some of the folks there, and we're going to pull this up right here, I think. Yes, we are. I'll step right over here so you can see a little bit. The picture up here in the corner, those are some young EMTs and paramedics. They got an award. Dr. Keenan Thompson down here with Andrew Eisenbarger, and them on a CPR save. They had a very good save. We've got the training right here, and this gentleman here is out there helping his folks clean one of those brand new ambulances we're going to talk about. AMR was required by contract to provide 5 new ambulances for this system. To date, they have provided 7, and in 2020, I'll be happy to report to you they will probably be providing more of those. Plus, they upgraded their med carts, their bicycle teams, and stuff like that. So there is some more of those benefits that we are gaining there. And then, of course, the most important employee that they've got right now. He's about the only one that likes it when I show up, of course. This is Stryker. We brought him in, and he managed to not cause too much disaster, hate, and discontent here. This is their therapy dog, and this is one of the programs that nationwide with AMR and with the other companies that are out there, they are seeing a real benefit to their first responders. I'm going to fix this here. There we go. And AMR must arrive 80% of the time for all the category of calls. This chart shows you in Zone 1, and there's a map in here. It's not included in your report because it's big, but it's in here. They're laid out in zones. Most of City of Topeka, with the exception of some areas south of 45th Street, are in the city, are in Zone 1. For an emergency call, they have to arrive at 9 minutes. For non-emergency, 14 minutes. Doesn't matter what type of the call is. If they're more than 15 minutes, they get fined $10 a minute, which is where that fine money comes in the special revenue fund that Betty set up for the grant. They've done really well. They have not been under 80%. I will note that in 2018, they did pay $40,000 in penalties and fines, and you're going to see why. That is still only out of the number of calls that they were on there, the 2366 that were late. That equates only to about 3.5% of the total calls that they responded to in Shawnee County where they were fined, which to me is a very good number. When you see some of the places on the west and east coast where these places are paying $40,000 a month in fines, and that's very concerning. The other thing to cover is the contract, and you didn't see it up there because it's not in there. We do not require AMR to have a certain number of ambulances on the street. There is no requirement for that. We don't require how many people they have on them, other than they have to have an EMT and a paramedic on them. We don't decide where they post them or when they post them. We give AMR that authority, and they do a cost ratio benefit analysis to decide, based on what it's going to cost them in fines and patient care, how do they staff those ambulances, when do they staff them, and why do they staff them. There's the zones. You can see the pretty pink there is Zone 1. Each of these, as you get further away, the requirements get a little bit higher. These were put together by the RFP committee. I will say, you will see up there that we do not do fines on the Turnpike. The Turnpike is kind of special because you've got about 2 different entrances you can go. You've got some fire gates you can go, but getting on and off of there, we did not think it fair. There are times that they may have ambulances completely out of position because a Turnpike call jumps in, and that was considered a disadvantage. And with our partnership with AMR, we agreed with them that we do not need to fine on the Turnpike. So I've kind of gone through that fast. Are there any questions so far?
I see none.
Okay. This is the comparison of calls that they arrived on. John Antrim has a special page that I look at, part of their analytics, that when they go below 90%, it puts big red letters and numbers up there to let me know they went below 90%. They have to stay above 80%, but they have put their matrix, they have set their trigger point at 90, so when there's a chance it's going to be below 90, they work on that. They work a lot off of their stats. They work with my office. As you can see from the blue there, there's looks like only 1, 2, there's very few of them there that are in the 80s. And that is significant, even though it's not required by the contract. For the whole year of 2017, they were on time in those zones 92.37% of the time. So they're over 12% higher than they're required to be before they get fined. And in 2018, it's a little bit down, and I'll show you why here in a second, because the numbers are astounding, but 89,000.64%. So they were down just a little bit. Of course, that puts the red flags on my page, even though they got 9.5% there. So this is the scary one. And the reason it's scary is this number right here, the 2199. AMR averages right at 2,100 calls per month. In the 12-month period, AMR ran 13 months worth of calls. That's basically the easy way to say it. I'll say this word, they got hammered. They had, at one point, I don't think anybody, there were 3 or 4 days there, I don't think anybody other than Stryker was at AMR headquarters for more than 5 minutes. They really got hammered in a lot of those calls. We had a long flu season. We totally forgot about spring and went right to winter, or not winter, summer, the next one. And we didn't have much of a fall and went right into winter. And those dramatic shifts are when we see an increase in calls. Again, relating to the fact, AMR, in accordance with the protocols, the contract regulations, they have to respond to those calls. So there were a lot of those. This number is good for one reason, well, several reasons, but the one that I like is it's going to give us good data on those low acuity calls, so we can look back at those and be prepared for those when we put a new initiative in, hopefully here in July or August, with some basic life support. These are the fines compared. Most of the calls occur in Zone 1, and so that's where you're going to see the most fines. You expect that. This goes down through the number of calls per zone. The chart on the left does that they have. You can see how it exponentially increased there, and you can also see why the amount is just a little bit higher. There's a little difference between that 40,000 and 13,000 there. So we just discussed this as part of the Ambulance Advisory Board and our work with first responders. We will be coming to you to relax 1 or 2 of the response requirements, that they have a paramedic on board on all calls, and we're going to assist them and the fire departments without having to wait on low acuity calls for so long to get somebody there to take care of them. We do all of our dispatching, we do all of our response matrix based off of the emergency medical dispatch that's in the 911 center, and we base it off of triaging who has the most immediate need, where does that equipment and help need to get to. And we just talked about that. We're working on some long-term matters. And then here's the chart for 2018. I try to show this chart. This chart is available. You can see where and when the rises and the drops are. The 69 exemptions down there, the greatest percentage of those were the weather events that we had last spring. We had January and February where we got a little snow, and then November of this year when we shut the interstate down for what seemed like a very long time. In conclusion, the appendix of this starts, it's 7 or 8 extra pages. It goes through each requirement. It lists whether they are in compliance, and it lists my opinion or my professional opinion as to how they either reached it or did not reach it. They are in substantial compliance. And before it ends up being on the front page of the paper, I would like to say that $40,000 in fines is expected. This contract and the intent behind the contract, as this was written, we understand that since we are not paying AMR to be here, there will be those times when there are fines. Those fines are the result of them deciding what's best for their patients, what's best for their company. They have to decide whether a $500 fine is worth what it is when they make those decisions. So the $40,000, even comparable to $13,000, we look at what the matrix had for the number of extra calls they went on. All of this is a matter of public record. The monthly reports, the minutes, everything that is a matter of public record that comes out of my office and that you receive in your office is on the website, and as soon as the meetings are over, we will put the final report and this document up on the website. So there's the financials. A little small, I would to make it bigger, but this goes through basically the different variances, goes through what it is. It's only for these years. The previous years are available. I'm not comparing those because it's like comparing a hippo and a giraffe between the two contracts. They're completely different. So does anybody have any questions or anything I need to address?
I see John is here now. Are there any questions for Nelson or John? Commissioner Cook?
Well, I'm interested about the groovy training. I appreciate Nelson, inserting groovy training into his presentation. But no, very well done, Nelson, and very comprehensive. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't heard that term since '69. Commissioner Rippon.
I have no questions.
First of all, I want to thank Nelson and John. It's been a really good partnership, and I appreciate it. What's the definition of low acuity call?
We are working on that definition so it fits us. These would be the people with small cuts, stubbed toes, a diabetic that only needs some help checking their thing. They are the lift assists are one. Anything basically that does not require a higher intervention or would likely not require an ambulance trip. One of the programs we're wanting to start is to keep folks out of our EDs. I unfortunately got hauled in there a couple weeks ago, and it was a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and the place was just packed tighter than sardines because we had a bunch of folks coming in. These are the people that may have may be lonely and need some help with their medications. They may need help from a wheelchair. There's a call that we have at a facility where the person falls down just about the exact same time of day, every day. If we don't have to send somebody racing over there, that's a paramedic that we can use EMTs for, then we're going to work to address that. A lot of the other low acuity calls that we see, folks that have been out and exposed, they don't have the signs of heat stroke or heat exhaustion, but maybe they need some hydration or anything like that. And John's behind me and probably cringing that I'm talking about medical terms.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Antrim, Regional Director, AMR Kansas, Western Missouri. First of all, again, thank you for allowing us this opportunity to serve your county. We've been a strong partner for over 35 years now, so quite some time. So as far as the low acuity calls are concerned, I like to explain this to people when you go to the emergency room. When you go to the emergency room, the first stop you make is within the triage, right? So they take your vital signs, they go through all of this, and then they put you in a waiting room. If you're having chest pain or something that's a high acuity, they rush you right into the back of the emergency room. If you're the guy that has the cut on your hand, you're going to sit there for a while. Well, that's very similar to the EMD process, the emergency medical dispatch process. The dispatchers ask a series of questions. Based upon those questions, they then rank them on their acuity. Omega is the lowest, alpha is the next level. So some of the things that he talked about, spider bites, falls without injuries, lift assists, and those kind of things. So the calls that most of the time we're fined on are those particular calls. They're not life-threatening, because if I'm responding to a fall without injury and a chest pain comes in, we're going to divert that ambulance to the higher priority call where there's a higher likelihood of patient needing that service. So I think that's kind of moving forward, not looking in the rearview mirror, but looking through the front of the bus and moving forward with some of these initiatives that we're going to come back to you with here in the next couple of weeks to improve the service, to make sure we're getting the right resource to the right patient is kind of our focus. So,
Very good. I think the public would like to hear that. And yeah, the thing about these so-called low acuity calls is they are taking resources away from something that potentially could be life-threatening.
correct. Yeah, I think
that should be a concern to all of us.
for sure, and I think there is a misuse of the system. I think there's a lot of times that an ambulance is not needed, but it's the only option that are available for some people. So, and I think some public education and working with some of our facilities is going to be another initiative as we move forward into addressing those.
Very good. Thank you, Nelson. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Under proclamations, number 2, presentation on the status of the excess reserve funds given to Parks and Recreation in the spring of 2018. Tom Laurent, Parks and Recreation. Tim, I'm sorry, Tim, I'm just,
That's okay.
my total.
That's all right. Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Laurent, Shawnee County Parks and Recreation. Let's see here. from the beginning. Yes, I'd like to spend a little time today talking to you about the status of the excess reserve funds. In June of 2018, the Parks and Recreation Department was awarded $3 million of excess reserve funding. So that's kind of low there, but I would like to, since that time, I would like to spend a little time talking about what we've accomplished in general since that time last year, June of 2018. And you can see why. If you look down here on the left-hand side, the excess reserve, we've only spent about $61,000 so far. However, if you notice our capital maintenance fund here, 3R, we've spent over $1 million. Total, we've spent, over $2.5 million on projects since last June. So we've been busy. Here's some of the things that we've completed since June of last year. The Gage Park Fitness Trail. I drove through Gage Park last weekend. Wow, the place was packed. A lot of folks on the trail. I think it's been a big success. Hillcrest Park improvements. You're going to hear a little bit more about that today, the Hillcrest Center. But we've done a lot of things there. Futsal court, new playground equipment, new concrete. It's kind of a boring thing to talk about, but concrete sort of plays a big role in what I'm going to talk about today. So, Lake Shawnee Junior Pond. Again, I think it's proven to be a very popular feature. I see folks out there quite often, and it is a beautiful setting. So here's some, now we're moving on to department projects in progress. So right now we have 76 projects out there that we're working on. Grand total of those projects, almost $6 million. Obviously, we don't have $6 million of excess reserve funds, but you can see we're almost at $3 million, $2,807,000 and change worth of money that's been committed out of the excess reserve fund. So what are we doing with those? We've evaluated 18 parks. So we've had staff go in there, look at those parks, develop plans for each one of them on how we can improve those areas. Estimated cost of those, a little over, $1.3 million. That happens to be a plan right there for Collins Park. The water quality project at the Adventure Cove, almost $400,000. Adventure Cove is about ready to open. This water quality project will allow folks to be able to swim there, so we're excited about that. Turf replacement for the multi-purpose field at Bettis Sports Complex, $350,000. That's scheduled to be completed sometime this fall. Just a list here. Asphalt Reclamation at 45th Street. Bleacher replacement at Lake Shawnee Girls Softball Complex. The Gage Park Relamp project, which is, I believe, if not done, almost done. I know that the majority of that has been completed. And then something you've heard about recently, the Land and Trail Bridge and the repairs that we'll need to make there. Concrete, again, not the grooviest thing to talk about, but 60,000 square feet of concrete. So when we go into these parks and we do these evaluations, our maintenance standards require that we have concrete pads under our benches, under our picnic tables, under our trash receptacles, shelters. It's a big deal. Quite honestly, it's one of the reasons we haven't spent as much money as we wish we had to this point. We had a really wet spring. It's hard to pour concrete when it's wet. So ADA compliance, I mean, that first and foremost is the biggest reason. We got to make sure that we're doing our due diligence there. So here's some examples of what I talk about when I mean concrete. These two pictures, the two on the top, are actually McKinley Park, which is not part of excess reserve, but it shows you that what you have to do there. If you could go out to McKinley Park today, you'd see these concrete areas filled in with our pour-in-place surfacing, and that concrete is necessary. This bottom picture here is the part of the sidewalk that leads down, the ADA accessible sidewalk that leads down to the Adventure Cove. So just some examples of why this concrete is important. Signage. As I drive around town, I see a lot of different park signs in various states. Some look better than others, but here's an example of Betty Phillips Park, the old sign, which, to be honest, didn't look too bad compared to some of the signs I've seen, but there's an example of our new signage. Again, 30 park benches have been purchased. They're ready to install, or as soon as we can get the concrete poured. Picnic tables purchased and ready to install, 18 trash receptacles, 14 park signs ordered, and more on the way shortly. Here's a little breakdown of projects, total projects that we've done since June by quadrant. You can see there we're a little bit heavier in quadrants 2 and 4 than we are in 1 and 3, and I think that just tends to be due to the fact that we have a few more amenities in those two quadrants. So we are trying to balance that the best that we can. That is really the end of the slideshow, but again, I don't want to make excuses, but I will also point out that I think the department has been in a state of transition since we got this money. We have our park planner up and retired on us, and so that, I mean, I'm not blaming anybody, but we lost our park planner. We replaced him with our Planning and Development Director, John Boyd. That's a new position for John. We hired Jeremy Myers. He didn't start until March. That's our Park Operations Director. I didn't come on until January. So we've had a lot of transition. So I can't make any solid promises on when this money will be spent, but I feel pretty confident saying that by the end of the year, we will have made a significant impact, and hopefully by this time next year, this money will have been used up. I think it's been a wonderful benefit to the department, to the community, and with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Cook.
This is a great presentation. I think that it's important to note, as we've talked about, only $61,000 out of $3 million spent, but we have so many projects in the pipeline. I think this is what the public has been wanting to know. Where is that money going? Is it being used? What's it being used for? I also understand there were some shifts in projects after the $3 million, that it was going to go to one thing, then it shifted to a different project.
I believe that's true, and I wish I had more information on that. I think that happened relatively early in the process, but yes, I believe that's true.
The number one thing, though, is communication is key. The neighborhoods, the public, they want to know what's going on with their park, and they do see it as their parks. If you come out and you see it in your front lawn every day, you develop an ownership over it, and it becomes very important to you as a part of your identity for your community. So,
Thank you. Commissioner Rippon.
I just had a question. You mentioned the Land and Trail Bridge, but where are we on that project?
I'd have to ask John where we are exactly. I know that are we going?
Getting the final design drawings from the architects so that we don't have to bid.
I was going to say going out to bid, but yeah, we're waiting on some design
We
specs.
think that will be completed this summer sometime then?
That's the plan.
We hope so.
Good. That's it.
Okay. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated. I think we're doing well after losing our park planner.
Yeah, yes, I would agree.
Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Good job. Next item, please.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Okay. Under Sewer Districts, MCOM Inc., $143,308.21 is for final payment for Pump Station 60 replacement project. As of June 21st, 2019, total vouchers, $1,424,426.39. And I move that we approve the vouchers.
second.
Motion made to approve the vouchers by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve the correction orders by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item B, Parks and Recreation, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-238-2018 with Steny Company for the project design build fee for the Hillcrest Center renovation project at an estimated cost not to exceed $46,558 with funding from the Building Maintenance Fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Boyd, Parks and Recreation. We are seeking approval to start this process. We've been in quite a few discussions with Steny Company, and so what we would like to do is move forward by starting this agreement to get the plans and designs all together so that we can bring them back to you with a guaranteed maximum price. And Matt McGivern and Cindy Hill are also here from Steny Company. If we have any in-depth questions, we can bring them up too.
Okay. For the public, where is Hillcrest?
1800 Southeast 21st Street. I had to pull that out.
1800 Southeast 21st
Correct.
Street. I know we've already invested some money in Hillcrest. What have we done so far, and how much have we spent?
Gosh, a lot of that stuff was done outside. This is focusing on the inside of the building now.
I understand that.
Yeah.
What was done and how much have we
Correct.
spent so far?
I don't have a total on the expense. I know that we have installed playground equipment. It's on the list now to get the surfacing done. We've started with some other projects, and I think it's third or fourth on the list to do the surfacing for the playground. The futsal court is completed, which is a enclosed area for like soccer, for smaller kids, a smaller court. Lighting, the parking lot lighting has all been improved. Made a world of difference on that facility over there. What else? A lot of pool improvements. I wasn't really involved in a lot of the pool improvements. I know they had some new, some kind of a swing thing that, I'm sorry, I don't know much about what was going on in the pools in there. We've done some upgrades, I believe, inside on the LED fixtures, upgrading the light fixtures inside the center in some of the administrative area and the rental rooms. But I can't give you a total cost on what we spent on that. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, I think we'd like to know that.
Okay.
And now we're moving inside the center.
Correct.
What's the vision for inside the center?
The vision is to create this building that it was built in the 60s and the 70s and bring it up to date. Right now, you walk in on either side of the building. What we would like to do is create a central entrance with double doors, ADA access as well. Open up the walls inside the building, bring the staff reception area out so that you actually talk to people as you come in instead of having to walk clear through the building to find out any information about what's going on. Updated lighting, air conditioning, Wi-Fi, and electrical. A lot more glass, a lot more open area, that kind of thing.
When was Hillcrest built?
In the 60s, I believe.
So essentially, overall, we're trying to modernize
Absolutely,
and be more customer-focused
absolutely.
at Hillcrest.
Correct, yes.
Very good. Questions? Commissioner Cook?
Well, I think that, we've looked at the number of partnerships that Hillcrest has gained. The health department comes to mind. That's a key partnership with the WIC through the clinics that we have there. It's a very integral to the community in improving our health plan and trying to identify those health needs, improving our health status. Hillcrest is kind of one of those key components to addressing what the needs are in the Shawnee County community. I know that I can see Linda's head bobbing up and down. In the back of our presentation, there is a part 5, that says Understanding of Shawnee County Parks and Rec Goals. And it goes through very detailed, talking about the lobby, the detailed, right now, as it does say, by John said, you have to walk all the way through the building to the middle before you can encounter anybody, the staff, as to what's going on. You have a lot of assets there. We have computer terminals, we have computer access, we have the health access, the health department, you have the gym, you have different meeting rooms, and it's really not the most user-friendly at this point. Customer service, really, it's not what was designed in the 1960s or 70s when we've changed how you do customer service. But this does give really a broad overview of what the expectations are in bringing the center up to modern needs.
Very good, thank you.
New figures.
Okay. Through the modern technology, we have some numbers here.
Did I delay it enough for you?
$102,864 was spent on the pool, $11,879 on fitness equipment. Total outside was $253,669.
Very good. Just what I wanted to know. Commissioner Rippon?
I have nothing to add.
I'll move for approval of the contract with Senate Corporation so that we can get to the point of having a maximum bid.
I'll second that.
Motion made to approve the contract by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next item, please.
Item B2, consider authorization and execution of contract C239-2019 with Sunflower State Games to host the 2019 Sunflower State Games rowing event at Lake Shawnee on July 20, 2019, with compensation through a $500 special event fee.
Good morning, Commissioner. Sean Osborne, Parks and Recreation. This item before you is a contract with Sunflower State Games, who we partner with, but this item is here because of the restrictions that'll be put on Lake Shawnee, and in order to get those restrictions, we have to bring it down to the BCC for approval. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I'll move to approve the contract.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Item B3, consider approval of request to fill a police officer, or park police officer position at a salary including benefits of $55,682.60, and to fill any position that becomes vacant as a result of filling this position.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Laurent, Shawnee County Parks and Recreation Department. Yes, we are asking to fill the vacant park police officer. I believe this position has been vacant now for over a year. This person, along with our other deputies, will be taking part in preventative patrols around Lake Shawnee and all of our park properties, park waterways, traffic duties. You'll see them play a pretty active role, I believe, in the 4th of July festivities coming up. So we currently have 2 full-time staff, and that includes Chief Cope and 4 intermittents. So I think it would be good for us and good for the community if we could add to that. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Tim? A motion.
I'll move that we approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve the request by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Tim. Next item, please.
Item B4, consider authorization and execution of the following contracts relating to the Deer Creek Trail Extension. A, contract C240-2019, amendment number 1 with Cook, Flatt, and Strobel Engineers, PA, to perform additional consulting to include geotechnical services for the retaining wall and 4 bridges in the amount of $33,950 with funding from the Building Maintenance Fund. And B, contract C241-2019, supplement number 1 to agreement number 94-180 with Kansas Department of Transportation, reflecting an increase in federal funds of $51,604 to the Deer Creek Trail project.
Good morning again, Commissioners. John Boyd, Parks and Recreation. The A contract is actually a amendment that we need to get approval for. We are being asked to have additional geotechnical surveys done for the bridges and the retaining wall that actually goes under I-70. Be happy to answer any questions on A.
And Part B.
Part B, there's actually a typo on that in the second paragraph, which the part where it says, which reflects an increase to our share, is actually supposed to be 10,320, not the 51,000. And this is actually, we received an updated funding budget from KDOT, and so this is just reflecting that.
So they're increasing the federal fund commitment.
Correct.
By 51,000.
Yes.
And our part is increasing by how much?
Our matching part of that is the 10,320.
10,320, okay. Let's make sure the record reflects that. Any questions?
I understand this is something new. KDOT's asking for these borings for the bridge abutments that, we never did those in the past on the trails.
Yeah, it must be because, like you said, it's never been done in the past. We've had several discussions about them, and it's basically, we would just want to make sure that we're putting the bridges on a solid foundation, and that way nothing happens potentially in the future.
Okay. Commissioner Cook, any follow-up?
I'll move for approval.
I'll second that.
Motion made to approve the contracts by Commissioner Cook, and that was seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item C, Stormont Vale Events Center, number 1, consider approval of the third-year payment of the forklift rental agreement with Berry Material Handling in the amount of $5,514.60 to be paid to Kansas State Bank.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kellen Seitz, Spectre Venue Management in the Stormont Vale Event Center. What you have in front of you is a third and final year of a forklift contract that was negotiated under the previous management group of the facility. We are currently in discussions and will be going out to an RFP process and potentially trying to work in some partnership effort to reduce the cost on not only the forklift rentals at our facility, but also skid loaders and any other heavy equipment that the county or the facility does not own in the coming years. So happy to answer any questions on this.
But this was a contractual agreement that we
Correct.
have to abide by.
Correct, yeah, this is just asking for your approval to release the payment. This is the third and final year of that forklift agreement.
We don't own a forklift.
We do not. The county previously owned some equipment that was traded in for a reduced rental rate, which was reflected in this rental agreement for the forklifts.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you,
Thank
Kelly.
you.
Next item, please.
Item D, Parks and Recreation, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-242-2019 with Kona Ice for a 2019 mobile food permit.
Good morning, Commissioner Sean Osborne, Parks and Recreation. The item before you is basically our mobile food truck permit that was established back in 2016. This allows this group to sell within some of our parks and some of our areas, so I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on the permit.
This is for snow cones.
Snow cones and various things that they may have besides that as well, yes.
Okay. I'll move to approve the contract.
I'll second that.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean. Next item, please.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
This is an opportunity for department head, any member of public to take as long as you'd like to address the commission.
Good morning, Betty Greiner, Director of Administrative Services. As you know, KSA 79-2925C, also known as the tax lid, limits the amount of property tax revenue a city or county can levy without a public election. The city or county must notify the county election officer if there will be an election by July 1. I have talked to each of you commissioners individually, and the county will not be seeking a 2020 budget that will exceed the tax lid limitation. Therefore, an election will not be required. Since we will not be having an election, then no resolution is needed for this action, nor do we need to notify the election commissioner. So just wanted to make an announcement of that.
Very good. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Courtney House, Director of Public Works and Solid Waste. Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to announce that Public Works staff assisted the city of Rossville. We delivered bags and sand to the community this weekend. I don't want you to think that was extraordinary because I think there were a number of entities that were assisting Rossville, but just to let you know. The second thing I wanted to talk about is Country Stampede is over. I guess there's going to be a new name for it, but a reminder to everyone, the public, the media, our Gary Ormsby Drive project does not start today. It starts 2 weeks from today. Questions? By chance? Thank you.
Sounds pretty straightforward to me.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dusty Nichols, Emergency Management. I did want to thank Public Works and Kurt. And it was kind of extraordinary because we did call them on a Sunday afternoon, and you guys showed up with sandbags and sand, so thank you for that. Appreciate it. Luckily, the flooding wasn't as bad as we anticipated, but Rossville's prepared for future rains right now, so thanks to everybody there. Just to touch on the Stampede, we're going to do a formal after-action report, and we'll have the whole list of everybody that participated, but we still have some cleanup to do, so hope they make their names on the list for cleanup as well, because there's a lot of cleanup left to do. But it went, from our perspective, I think public safety in general would agree that it went really well. There's some things we need to work on, of course, in coming years, so we're looking forward to future involvement. So, that's all.
Very good. Thank you, Dusty.
Good morning, Commissioners. Linda Oakes from the Health Department. Last week, we released our monthly Epi Surveillance Newsletter. I'm going to try to open it here. Come on, there it comes. And I've asked our epidemiologist, Lynn Lee, to come tell you a little bit about food insecurity in Shawnee County.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Lynn Lee, epidemiologist of the Health Department. I just wanted to take this opportunity to share with you our newsletter. Hopefully it'll go up. Linda?
Try using it. Get over here and use this. Okay. There you go. You want to go up?
Yeah.
Okay. To the top?
Yes. Okay. So, Feeding America recently updated their data for food insecurity and through the MAP, the Meal Gap report. And so they highlighted that Shawnee County is at 13.3% of our population and 18.4% of our children are dealing with food insecurity in Shawnee County. Sounds like a scary number, but I'm happy to say that that number is decreasing. So although it is decreasing over the last couple of years, it is still roughly about 1 in 8 individuals in Shawnee County is dealing with food insecurity, and 1 in 5 of our children are dealing with food insecurity. And so why do we care about food insecurity? Well, you know, the effects of food insecurity and the food environment on health. In my line of work, I worry a lot about health, and so proper nutrition is really important for all phases of life, whether it be at birth to our aging process. It's really many of our leading causes of death in Shawnee County and also nationwide, whether it be heart disease, stroke, or type 2 diabetes, it's linked to poor diet and poor health. So why don't we just eat better, right? People ask me all the time, well, let's just eat better. Well, income plays an important role in our ability to eat well. And so when we think about eating well, we have to think about food access. So food access literally could mean food access whether or not you have a grocery store in your neighborhood, but also food access means whether or not you can afford good foods. And so when you can afford good foods, you can then decrease your chances of getting tooth decay. It can decrease your risk of getting all of the chronic illnesses that I had mentioned before. And so while I was doing this research, I wanted to look broad and see nationwide, what are people doing with dealing with food insecurity, because it's not just a Shawnee County issue. And so what I found really interesting is that there's this new movement, I'm sure you've heard, food as medicine. And so with increased healthcare costs and increased rates of chronic illnesses, there are a lot of hospitals, community centers, and even insurance companies that are moving towards maybe we should prescribe food as medicine. And so there are many case studies out there. I only just highlighted 2. And so in Pennsylvania, they did a fresh food pharmacy pilot program. It started really, really small, and now they've expanded. And basically, they were prescribing a strict regimen of fresh fruits and veggies to diabetes patients. And now they've scaled it up to include more individuals. And the other case study that I highlighted was California, and they took it to a whole nother level and scaled it up to pilot a program for the next 3 years, and they're piloting it for $6 million. So that's everywhere else. What are we doing here in Shawnee County? Well, based off of our most recent community needs assessment, food access was something that was brought up that we needed to address. And so I'm happy to say that Shawnee County Health Department and the Heartland Healthy Neighborhoods is creating a food council here. And the goal is to bring together all of the stakeholders and experts in the food world to address food insecurity here. And so lastly, my newsletters, the target audience is for providers, and so I just put some tips in here and for them, but I wanted to show you lastly the map of our food deserts. So I recreated this map, the USDA's map, in our GIS system, and so the highlighted portion are census tracts that are considered food deserts in Shawnee County. And those little basket carts are our grocery stores. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions? I don't see any. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else for administrative communications this morning? Very good. Commissioner Cook?
We had a very nice ribbon cutting after the rain at the Washburn Tech East. Again, I want to thank Jim Crowell for all of his work.
Yes.
Very well deserved, and just I'm glad that it was open and ready to go. It's a very impressive facility. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Ripbaum?
Well, yesterday I helped the Gage Park Memorial Group put in bricks at the memorial, and that's always a rewarding experience, meeting the veterans and their families, and something I enjoy doing.
Good. Good. Yeah, the opening of Washburn East was very well done, and the county councilor really, I think, pulled us through on that project as far as legal, financial, and some of the problems that we had. So thank you so much, Jim. Good, just excellent job. I want to thank Nelson also. Good presentation. I think it's reassuring to the public that we're constantly monitoring ambulance service in Shawnee County, and that we're looking at weak points to improve that service. Thank you, Nelson. The Stampede, thanks to emergency management, job well done. The sheriff's office, certainly. Brian Cole at the jail. There's so many people to thank for making that a success, and look forward to many years of having the Stampede in Heartland Park. I also wanted to thank Tim and the Parks and Rec staff for the fine job you're doing. Parks and Rec is just getting better and better all the time, and I appreciate that. So, all in all, it's been a groovy meeting. Next item, please.
Item 6, executive session.
There's not a need for an executive session, so we're officially adjourned. Have a good day.
Groovy, man, groovy.
Somebody had Ben Gay on. Gosh, did you notice that? Oh, man, that was overpowering.
What's that?
You had on Ben Gay, or did you notice it when you came in?
No.
Well, it must have been you then. Gosh, it was overpowering. My eyes almost started.